Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of Explore the Bible with me. I am gonna jump right into the verses because we have a lot to talk about today. So, the verses that we're going over are Genesis 1 6 through 8. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters from the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made these spaces to separate the waters of earth from the heavens. God called the spaces sky, and everything, and evening passed and morning came, marking the second day. So we're talking about the sky today. And I want to kind of tell you guys something that happened yesterday. I've been saying over the last couple of episodes that I use the creation story to help ground me when things feel like they're going crazy in my life. And yesterday was one of those days. I was so tired, and it seemed like one thing after another was happening. And I had to go to the food pantry yesterday. And normally I don't feel shame because there's nothing wrong with using a food pantry. But because I was so tired and because so much stuff was going on, the enemy decided that he wanted to latch onto it. And we're going to talk about shame in a few episodes from now, but I started feeling this overwhelming shame that I couldn't provide something for my family, that I had to go to this place. And the person who drove me yesterday to the food bank, he had surprised me and he made a meal for my kids. And so when I got there, like every other time, the women who run the food pantry smiled at me and said hi to me and asked me about the kids and all this stuff. And it was like I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I was so tired. By the time I got home, I thanked the person who drove me and got home, put all the food away. And for a brief second, I felt a sigh of relief. But then the what ifs about everything else that was going on snuck back into my head. And I sat there and I went, yeah, but I have to worry about this and I have to worry about that. And I have to figure out all these other issues. I just felt so exhausted mentally, physically. I stepped out on my balcony for 2 minutes and I looked around me and it clicked. God created all of this stuff. Why am I being so anxious about everything? Jesus tells us not to be anxious, to know that God is there, to know that God has us. And I just was so taken back because I saw the trees, I saw the sky, I saw the light, I saw these things, and I was just like, I don't worry about these things. I don't worry that the light is going to be there. I don't worry that the earth is going to be there. I don't worry that even the sky is going to be there. I'm not anxious about these things. I know when I wake up in the morning, the sky is going to be where the sky is, because that's what God is telling us He created in these verses. And that's when I felt like all of the anxiety from that day, all the anxiety from yesterday just came off of me. And finally, I felt like I was me again. And I wasn't anxious about all this stuff. I knew God had gone before me and He knew the outcome of everything I was dealing with. But to me, I was holding on so tightly to all of this anxiety and all of this fear that I couldn't let it go. And it was taking a toll on me. It was taking a toll on how I spoke to my kids and how I spoke to other people and just the wanting to not trust. But God is telling us in the creation story, you don't have to worry about these things. You don't have to worry that the earth is going to be there when you wake up in the morning. I never sit there and I never go, what if the world disappears? What if the earth disappears? I don't worry about that. Not many people do. I don't ever worry that the sky is not going to be there. That, even light is going to be there when it's super cloudy out. You still have light. Even when the sky is completely gray and not blue at all, you still have light. You can still see light. And I was thinking back, and one of my daughter's favorite shows is My Little Pony. And no heat on My Little Pony. I absolutely love that cartoon too. But in this cartoon, the Pegasus have to clear the skies of the clouds, and they have to bring in the clouds to have it rain or snow. They are in charge of the sky, and the earth ponies have to run around all of these trees to knock down the leaves. And I think to myself, how exhausting is that? How exhausting would it be? And I know My Little Pony is not real, but how exhausting would it be if we had to be in control of this stuff? If we had to move the clouds, if we had to make it rain or make it snow, or we had to make sure every leaf on every tree came down in the fall. How exhausting. But we don't have to do that. God does it for us. We don't have to worry about the clouds that make the rain. God does that for us. He makes sure when it needs to rain, it rains. When it needs to snow, it snows. I live in a state where we get pummeled with snow every year. And I don't ever have to sit there. I have to worry about shoveling it, but I don't ever have to sit there and worry about, well, it's midnight, I have to make it snow, I have to make it rain. No, I don't. It just happens. And it made me realize yesterday that why am I so anxious about things I can't control? A lot of the stuff that I was dealing with yesterday are completely out of my control. But yet I took that on. I took on the responsibility of trying to fix these things that were out of my control. And God calls us his children. God says to us, you are my children. Jesus says, come to the Father as if you were a child. And I don't know about you, but I have 3 kids. And there are some things they just expect are going to happen. They expect that there'll be food in the fridge, no matter how it gets there. They expect that they're going to have a bathtub to take a shower in or a bath in. They expect that they're going to have clean clothes. They don't worry about these things. They don't sit there and go, Mom, did you do it? Sometimes I forget to wash laundry because things get crazy. And sometimes I forget to, stick all the dishes in the dishwasher. But normally they don't have to remind me to do these things. But unlike me, we never have to remind God to make sure the sky is always there. We don't have to look at God and say, God, remember, you gotta keep the earth spinning. You gotta keep the earth here so we can live here. No. And we can just go on and expect these things to happen. We may not always be able to predict when the rain is coming or predict when the snow is coming, but we know it's going to come. We know that in winter, it snows. In summer, spring, and fall, it rains. And sometimes it does rain in the winter. It does. But we know it's going to happen. And we know that the sky is going to be there, and it might be bright blue and completely cloudless, or it might be completely gray, but we know also that light is going to be there, that day is going to be full of light and night is going to be dark so we can go to sleep. These things we don't have to focus on, but we should. Not in a sense of anxiety, but in a sense of both gratitude and understanding if God can create all of these things, and if God can make sure that they're always going to be there, and He can take on all that, and He can hold on all that to that, and He can make it so it doesn't go away, what can He do with the stuff that we deal with? Can He bear the weight of our problems? And the answer to that is yes. He can bear the weight. When my kids were little and they fell down or a toy broke, they would come to me because they knew that I may not be able to take the cut or the boo-boo away, but they knew that I can hold on to the burden of what happened. I may not be able to fix the toy, but I could help them understand that the toy, yes, is broken and we have to throw it in the garbage, but that's okay. You have many other toys. And I know it's a sad thing, but I could handle that. So they knew that. So they brought it to me. And we can do the same with God. We can bring that stuff to Him and we can know He is going to be able to handle it. He's going to be able to walk us through it. It does not mean that He's going to instantly take it away. He did not take away a lot of the issues that I was having yesterday, but He walked me through it. He comforted me enough to where I could sleep last night. Even though the problems are still going to be there today, and I'm going to still have to somehow figure out how to handle it, the way I'm going to handle it is hand it off to Him again. Because that's another thing we do. We hand it to Him and then we take it back. And we hand it to Him and we take it back. But when we look at the story of creation, when we look at what God created in this, He is giving us a physical reminder that He is there. Something that we can see, touch, feel, smell, and even taste sometimes. We can see these things with our eyes. We've talked about 3 different aspects so far. We've talked about Him forming the earth, which was the foundation of our home, and then Him adding in light so that we don't have to live in utter darkness every single moment of our lives. And now we're talking about the sky and separating the waters of our earth from the waters of the heavens. So separating the rain and the mist and the snow from the lakes and streams. And so we see all this stuff. We can witness it all every single day. And what an amazing thing this is. What an amazing moment we have when we can see all of this stuff. And what an amazing God we have who would create this for us, knowing what's coming, knowing that, like kids, we are going to disobey. But He still created it for us, and He's still keeping it for us every single moment. The sky never goes away. The earth never goes away. The light, yes, at night it is dark, and during the day it is light, and that does technically go away, but it always comes back. The cycle of day and night always happens, so that is always there. And these things we can count on without even missing a beat. So using what we know, the concrete things that we can see, we need to be able to figure out and truly give Him everything and expect that He can handle it. We need to be like, all right, God, I know You're big enough. I know that You are way bigger than my problems, way bigger than my fears, way bigger than my anxieties. You take it. But that's hard for us It's hard for us because we want to fix it. We feel like we have to fix it. We live in a culture where it's you have to pick up by your bootstraps and you gotta handle all this on your own. No. Jesus tells us the absolute opposite. He tells us we need to give it to the Father. We need to give our issues and our problems, no matter how heavy they are, give it to Him. And sometimes it's a constant hour by hour, moment by moment, handing it over and handing it back and giving it back because it is a struggle for us. So today, if things are heavy in your life, please learn, and it's a hard process, but learn to expect that God can handle it. Go outside, look at the sky, remind yourself that we live on earth. See the light of day, see the darkness of night when God is saying, rest, sleep. This is your time to recharge. God never needs to recharge. We, on the other hand, I don't know about you, but if I don't sleep, I get cranky. God doesn't need to sleep. God doesn't get cranky when he doesn't get a full night's sleep. But hold on to that expectation. Hold on to the expectation that if God can keep the sky up and you don't have to worry about it, we should be able to give him our anxieties and our fears. So I hope today you can use this story of creation and you can go outside and you can see the light of day and you can see the sky and remind yourself that we live on planet Earth and that this can give you a comfort to know that God is walking through whatever it is that you are going through. And I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day today. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So thanks for joining me. If you'd like, start to write a review about this podcast. It always helps. And hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.